Oh boy, do I have a lot to say about Move Tutors in the next Pokemon game. Don't worry guys, there's going to be a top 10 somewhere in this video, but first I want to talk about how it doesn't matter if it's Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, Diamond Pearl remakes, Nintendo Switch, 3DS versions, none of that matters. What does matter is that going off of the trends of Pokemon, the sequel version, remake, and maybe even just random Pokemon game will give us access to the Move Tutors in some way. Recently it's been battle points, but overall, as you can see as we just scroll down this long list of moves that are only available in certain games, there's a lot of ways of acquiring these moves on certain Pokemon. Now, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire kind of set the bar by bringing back the most Move Tutor moves that we have seen so far, but it's still left out quite a lot of moves, such as the Emerald version moves. I think Mimic Shedinja, we have Softboil on Clefable, we have Seismic Toss, as well as just Metronome and all kinds of fun stuff like that. Like the Metronome Move Tutor is a really interesting one because it's a 4th generation move that had somewhat limited usage, and then by the way, the tutors just brought it back in the 3rd generation. Then we have 2nd and 3rd generation Pokemon getting access to that. So I'm hoping that this is the generation that Game Freak finally turns around and says, alright, we're bringing back all of the Move Tutors that have existed and then making them 7th generation legal. That way we can have the Alola Plus symbol, and then those Pokemon will be usable in competitive play or something like that. Now, going through the years, I've done a video on this already, but there's a lot of moves that just haven't been brought over to Move Tutors, and now we have to focus on new Move Tutors as well. Power Up Punch had a very brief run as a TM in the 6th generation, and it got removed in the 7th. So that means it has to be coming back as a Move Tutor, right? If not, that's going to be one that's lost for generations once again. And another thing to consider when we get a new generation with Move Tutors is not the potential of new moves coming back in the tutor, but also new Pokemon getting a revamp on their moveset. We saw this in the 6th generation, that even though the Pokemon were released just a year earlier, they got more moves added in by the Move Tutors. So it's definitely a possibility with Pokemon that we find in the 7th generation, and that's where we finally stumble our way into the top 10 Move Tutor hopes for Pokemon Sun and Moon, or top 10 best Move Tutors, whatever you want to call it. It seems like there's some potential here to add on to the movesets as we've seen in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and maybe bring some of these Pokemon into competitive viability. Number 10 on the list of best Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon Move Tutors is going to go to Silvally. Now, Silvally already has a really good move pool to begin with that has elemental coverage on both the physical and special side, as well as Steel, Poison, Rock, Bug, Dark, and any other typing that it wants with the RKS system. Now, there's quite a lot of normal type Pokemon in general that just get access to all kinds of crazy elemental coverage. I call these like rainbow normal type Pokemon, and they tend to do really well when it comes to the amount of Move Tutor moves that they learn. I feel Silvally is going to be no different. That you can just look at the list, pick and choose. Silvally's going to get something from there that is going to benefit it. I see it getting Outrage on that physical side. It can definitely get Earth Power for the special side. Maybe even the Elemental Punches. So a little bit of a damage buff from the Fang moves that Silvally gets access to. Knockoff is going to be invaluable. If it gets the Pain Split, that means now Silvally has Sustain. I even see Iron Defense for the type Null. That Eviolite type Null with the Iron Defense. Oh, that is going to be absolutely impossible to break down. Potential Stealth Rocks. I mean, you can just pick and choose from the list, and it's going to be good coverage overall. So that's kind of what I'm looking at with the Silvally. Also, if it gets access to the Hyper Voice, that means type Null can do something, or Silvally with the Life Orb can use that for extra damage on top of just having other good coverage. Reason why Silvally is only number 10 on this list: base stats. Unfortunately, you can do a lot to the moveset, but Silvally already has good coverage and representation, but 95 on the offenses with the speed means you're going to get overwhelmed, even though 95 on the defenses are going to be pretty good overall. Number 9 on the list is going to be Togedemaru. So, Togedemaru, it kind of got screwed over, that it's a fairly fast level Pokemon, but it gets Gyro Ball as its only stab steel move. Yes, that this is a Pokemon that is an electric steel typing, and its only offensive steel move is the Gyro Ball, and it's somewhat fast, so it does no damage. That means free Iron Head. The Move Tutors for Togedemaru, Iron Head, and I'm guessing Super Fang, and maybe a couple of other things. I could also see Togedemaru getting the Helping Hand, that we have like a Fake Out Pokemon with Super Fang that can paralyze the opponent. Helping Hand just makes a lot of sense right there. Also, it is a soft Paraflinch Pokemon that just comes in, goes for the paralysis. That works out really well in doubles or late game singles, and then you could just go for the flinches. And I think that Iron Head is going to be better than the Zing Zap overall, because, okay, ground type Pokemon comes in, that's going to suck. But if you can go against a tanky Pokemon, cut its hit points in half, and then flinch it away, or like get that paralysis down, that could be pretty interesting. And maybe Togedemaru might get a little more out of that than just having electric and then maybe running that stray poison move instead of actually going into its stab. Kind of awkward right there, but overall could see some changes to Togedemaru in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Number 8 on the list is going to be Stealth Rocks. Yep, I'm going to cheat quite a few times on this list and just put an actual move that's going to help multiple Pokemon instead of a Pokemon helped out by multiple moves. Now, looking at the Pokemon that get Stealth Rock in the 7th generation, you can understand why. That is it. That we have the Rockruff evolutions and forms, we have an Ultra Beast, we have Necrozma, and we have a Shell Smash Pokemon that wants to be using Setup and Sweeping instead of going for the Stealth Rocks. There's no breeding of Stealth Rocks in the 7th generation, so that's it. And then when you think about other Pokemon that could get the Stealth Rocks, I see Togedemaru, I see Turtonator, maybe even Silvally, Palossand. So it goes a little deeper than that. Those Pokemon might get a little bit of help, but there's just something wrong in seeing Stealth Rocks getting so few Pokemon that actually get access to the move in an entire generation. Mudsdale might get it as well, but it wants to be more of an Assault Vest Pokemon. So there are some Pokemon that might get it and not use it, but overall, I see Stealth Rocks getting quite a few Pokemon that'll get access to it in the 7th generation, since very few Pokemon learn it naturally. Number 7 on the list is going to be Pikachu. Now, the biggest reason why Pikachu is on the list is because of Endeavor. That Game Freak needs to set aside all of the events, put away all of the shenanigans, and just make it to where Pikachu can get Endeavor inside of the game. That way we can get the move tutors that we want, that way we can get the nature and IVs that we want really easily for the Pikachu, and then we don't have to worry about the prospects of a world champion using a Pokemon that can pretty much be only obtained through hacking the game and then distributing that Pokemon, which is pretty much also something that can only be done with hacking. That by having this Pikachu inside the game, it'll reduce a lot of the potential for cheating, as well as making it to where this is now 7th generation legal and then available in competitive play. It's actually really powerful and pretty good for strategy, either on a Pikachu or a Raichu, and just having it available to everyone makes it to where there is less of an advantage than those that are cheating their game. Also, one thing interesting to point out is that from the Pokemon Sun and Moon teaser trailer, there's a lot of Pikachu just kind of running around. At the time of making this video, we don't really know what this is usable for. Maybe it's some kind of crazy Pikachu paradise, maybe it's just something to do with like an island challenge, but I hope that it might also like help out with Pikachu move tutors, as well as giving us access to cosplay Pikachu again. That'd be pretty cool if cosplay Pikachu wasn't just lost forever, then we had access to this crazy Pokemon with its different moveset as well. Number 6 on the list is going to be Beware. Now, Beware already gets access to the Thunder Punch and the Ice Punch through breeding, but I think it's just a lot better if you could just pay a couple of battle points and then end up with those moves instead of having to worry about the chain breeding. So that means, at the very least, with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, breeding a competitive Beware is going to be easier, but it might also get the Fire Punch. And what about Drain Punch or Knockoff? That Beware is already a deceptively tanky Pokemon, so if it can do some kind of setup and then go into the Drain Punch for sustain as well as stab, that could be what all that Beware needs to just be an absolutely monstrous Pokemon, and then even get access to the Knockoff. Make your opponent weaker while still doing a lot of damage. Beware seems to have a lot of potential to add on to its moveset, as well as make its theme a bit more coherent, and that could be something pretty cool to see with Beware in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Number 5 on the list is going to be Komala. Now, I'm just going to be cheesy Verlisify, I'm going to say some silly stuff, but Last Resort. All we need is Last Resort on the Komala, and we could do some of the coolest things to ever happen in Pokemon. What we do is we choice band Sleep Talk and only know Last Resort. It's going to call Last Resort on that first turn immediately, and then do a whole bunch of damage, as well as just kind of going with what Komala already has in being immune to pretty much any status that you can't do to a Pokemon while it's asleep. So Komala has a lot of advantage that way. And then to add on to that, I want to do a little bit of a damage calculation. 1 turn, 0 setup, we can one-shot a Garchomp. That is how much damage we are putting out. That is a pseudo-legendary Pokemon with over 100 on the hit points and 95 on defense. If it's a less tanky Pokemon that's invested in hit points, you can still KO it. If it's a sweeping Pokemon, you're going to KO it. Komala doesn't really care about speed either, so you're at least getting hit point investment and getting a slightly tankier Komala out of it, and also Komala is going to love this under a Trick Room, so you're just going to be able to destroy things non-stop. The last resort silliness with this Pokemon would be absolutely amazing, but also it could get a couple other things, maybe the Pain Split, maybe the Elemental Punches, so it's not just the last resort for the Komala, but it is something I am really looking forward to, and maybe a couple of other like stat changes. 65 on defense is a little low. I understand its ability is pretty broken, but Komala didn't really get used a lot, even though it seems to be a pretty good comedic foil in the anime, and the Pokemon Company loves this Pokemon, so I want to see it get a little stronger as well. Number 4 on the list is going to be Knockoff. So much like Stealth Rocks, Knockoff is a ridiculous move that suddenly when the Move Tutors appear, everything that can get a hold of this usually finds a way of working, and this can just throw Pokemon into viability or make strong Pokemon even stronger. We kind of saw this with X and Y, that when it came to 6th generation legal competitive Pokemon, there wasn't really much going on, but then boom, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire Move Tutors hit, everything started getting the knockoff, and then things went crazy. But I see a lot of potential candidates for knockoff in Pokemon Sun and Moon, like Silvally, getting a hold of it could be crazy, maybe the Komala, Mimikyu could be absolutely devastating, Dhelmise, we have Incineroar, Decidueye. A lot of Pokemon could get access to the knockoff via Move Tutor, just kind of throw it in there and then be good to go. Now with Mimikyu, I also see this Pokemon changing drastically, that now it's going to be even harder. Like, hey, is this going to be like a stall Mimikyu, like Will-O-Wisp, Pain Split, knockoff, coverage, GG? It could get pretty silly. Like, that's just a free item. Mimikyu just removes an item for free, as well as whatever other Pokemon use the knockoff to their advantage, so it's going to be pretty strong. Number 3 on this list might surprise you guys, but Dhelmise might be one of the most impacted Pokemon by Move Tutors when it comes to Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And when we think about it, Dhelmise, it already doesn't have any egg moves, so it can really only move up from its current moveset, and also likes running that Assault Vest. So Foul Play. We get Triple Stab plus Foul Play Dark Coverage on the Dhelmise. That could just be enough to make Dhelmise even more ridiculous, and then just take like anything off of the status tree. That the reason why Dhelmise is mostly running Assault Vest now is that it needs to preserve as much durability as possible, but give it Synthesis, give it Sustain, give it Pain Split, give it something that it can use, and maybe Dhelmise won't be just like an Assault Vest beater anymore, that if Dhelmise gets Synthesis, as well as high damaging moves, it might be just like a really rare bulk sustain Pokemon that does absurd amounts of damage. Could also get the Snatch, Magic Coat, Skill Swap. Dhelmise has a lot of crazy things that could end up happening, and I see that going really well for the Move Tutors in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Now we're getting serious, guys. Number 2 on the list is going to be Drain Punch. There is so much injustice in Pokemon Sun and Moon, and most of that is just because Komodo doesn't get Drain Punch. Also, just a lot of Pokemon not getting the Drain Punch. You see all these fighting Pokemon, I already mentioned the Beware, but you see a lot of Pokemon, it's like, hey, if it had a solid sustaining move like the Drain Punch, that would be pretty awesome. Komodo being able to actually boost damage, so go into Dragon Dance, sustain the damage that it took while Dragon Dancing, and then getting a solid stab option with that Drain Punch would be absolutely amazing to see, and might be enough to make it somewhat viable. Doesn't really get over the 4x weakness to Fairy, but at least if it could do better against everything else, then Komodo might find a little bit more success. I mean, also just think about other Pokemon. Passimian does get a pretty big boost out of it. Anything that didn't get Leech Life, just give it the Drain Punch if it wants to be like a physical sustain attacker, and it's going to do much better. So I see Drain Punch being more impactful than even Knockoff and the Stealth Rocks. But there's still one more, guys. There's still one more. And again, this is probably cheating, but I'm just going to say everything. Just everything from those original 3rd generation Move Tutors. I kind of talked about them already, but I mean, come on, we need so much. And like, okay, we have Endure, we have Mimic, we have Seismic Toss, we have Soft Boiled, we have Metronome, we have a couple of Body Slam Pokemon out there, maybe give counter to a few more. There's just a lot of Pokemon that are missing movesets that they've had for many generations that they just never got back. We have Sucker Punch on quite a few Pokemon as well. Just kind of pour all of those back into the Pokemon, and then maybe even give them to new Pokemon. As we saw with the Metronome, Metronome has a long list, and that's just from 3 generations. We had 4 more generations that. Or we only give some of these moves to 7th and 6th generation Pokemon, and I think that it can really spice things up. I mean, some of these moves have already gotten representation elsewhere, like Rock Slide and Thunder Wave. They became TMs again, so that's pretty cool right there. But Mega Kick and Mega Punch, people don't really run those overall, but there's still a few moves. There's very niche cases, like the Mimic Shedinja. I know it's scary if Game Freak makes that mainstream, but hey, it's existed before, so I don't know why they keep masking it, making it harder and harder to obtain. The Softball on Clefable would be really interesting if you actually could use that with the Unaware ability, that right now, since this was 3rd generation, hidden abilities didn't exist. We can actually add so much more to this. And then the Endure Move Tutor. So Endure has a lot of potential for play right now because we have Confusion Berries, and then we also have the Boost Berries as always. So you endure Salac Berry, you endure Patea Berry, you endure Lychee Berry. These combos have been around for a very long time, and a lot of Pokemon just don't have access to it anymore. So yeah, improving the coverage is kind of releasing the gates. I think that's my biggest issue, is just make it to where all of the move tutors, any moveset that a Pokemon's had, should not be restricted anymore. This is 2017. We're in the 7th generation of Pokemon. Everything is so long back, you know, so many transfers away from that 3rd generation, that it should all just be available to everyone. Therefore, we don't have to worry about cheating as much, and we also don't have to worry about the advantages either. So there we go, guys. Move tutors for Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I've already done some videos, like, just after Pokemon Sun and Moon came out, like, hey, I can't wait for my One Punch Mewtwo to get Drain Punch again. You know, now all the Pokemon that you obtain in the 7th generation, all these move tutors will now be 7th generation legal, so that's going to be a big boost right there. Anything that you transferred from the 6th generation without getting a move tutor on, you can also do that as well. If you accidentally deleted a move like I did on my One Punch Mewtwo, all of these moves get to come back. You get a second chance. I think that is going to be the best thing about it. Just because I didn't mention Pokemon doesn't mean it's not going to gain benefit as well. That we're going to see what gets a potential moveset and how crazy that Pokemon becomes. Could be enough to buff it into viability. That's what I'm hoping for. So, hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.